Hi, it's Steph, and we're at Lowe's, and the coneflowers are starting to roll in. They have a bunch of new perennials and even some shrubs that have hit the clearance rack. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Lowe's inventory at the end of June. We'll start here with these sunny and cherry yellow coneflowers. Now these are by Monrovia, and the variety is called Sombrero Lemon Yellow Coneflower. These are a full sun perennial, and coneflowers like a good well-draining soil in full sun conditions. These here, the Monrovia, just under a 1 gallon here, is $10.98, and there's lots of buds on this one. So if you planted it, you'd still get to enjoy plenty of blooms in your garden. It's a really pretty shade of yellow, like a golden yellow. Now these look pretty tall. So this one here says that it needs 6+ hours of direct light, low watering once established, and they get to be 18 to 24 inches in height and 18 inches in width. And they bloom summer through fall, hardy down to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So of course, if you deadhead these, they will continue to put out blooms. At some point down the road, partway through towards the end of the summer, you can stop deadheading them, and that way you can leave some seed heads over the winter for feeding the birds. They really like to feed on the seeds, especially the yellow finches, and it just the cones provide beautiful winter interest. And then I saw this new variety this year that looks orange but then fades to a coral or a pink color. So let me see if I can show you a few different colors on this same coneflower. So here, this one is called Sun Magic Vintage Ruby Coneflower by Monrovia. Full sun perennial. These are also $10.98. And let's check the size on this one. So it says light, 6+ hours of light, low watering once established, and these get pretty tall at 30 to 34 inches in height and 18 to 24 inches in width. They bloom summer through fall, hardy to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. But it looks like they open up an orangey color. Actually, they might even open up a bit more this color orange, and then they fade to that color orange, and then I see that there's even one that looks red here. So very similar, or like a hot pink, very similar to, say, a Cheyenne Spirit, where there's multiple colors on one plant. So really beautiful coneflower. This is a new variety to me by Monrovia, the Sun Magic Vintage Ruby. Some pretty Speedwell or Veronica by Monrovia. It has this really pretty, very light lavender, almost white color. And this variety is called, let's see, First Memory Speedwell, Veronica First Memory. This is also a full sun perennial. They're $10.98, and they get to be 12 to 18 inches in height and 12 to 18 inches in width. They bloom spring through summer, hardy to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and it says that they're deer resistant. So that is good. Now, deer resistant just means that they're less likely to eat them, but hungry deer will sample anything once. There's two varieties called First Memory. The very light whitish lavender and a pink. A whole rack of some new arrivals by proven winners. So Bit of Honey, Heliopsis, and then some Dicentra with a fern leaf foliage. Let's check these out. So this perennial here is called Heliopsis, and it's called Bit of Honey, the variety. It is a full or part sun. I would say that given that some of these leaves look a little bit crispy or sunburnt, probably would do better in a part sun situation. These are the proven winners for $12.98. And what's really interesting about this one is that it has a really beautiful golden yellow bloom, but this really pretty variegated foliage. There's still a few buds here, so that is cool. And then there's also this Dicentra or Bleeding Heart. Now this is a bit of a different variety. The foliage is somewhat different. It has more of a ferny type foliage and a bluish gray color hue. Really pretty. Now these are all bloomed out, but these are perennials. So if you were to purchase this plant, you would just deadhead it by cutting all of these stems right here at the base and plant it in your garden, and the next year it would come back beautifully. So this here is the Proven Winners Pink Diamonds Dicentra. It's also a perennial for full or part sun. These are $12.98. They're their 2.5 quart container. And let's see how big these get. This variety is short at 12 to 16 inches in height. It will get a little taller once it sends up these bloom stalks. It is hardy in zones 3 through 9 or down to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, so very hardy. And it blooms late spring through early fall. light conditions, full to part sun. But it has a really pretty light pink lavender type bloom. There we go. They look like little hearts, bleeding hearts. And some more beautiful daisies. These are the Proven Winners Amazing Daisies Banana Cream. And you can see all the different color variations here. They start off a creamy yellow and then they age to more of a white. And they're also double petaled, which is really pretty. And here is one of the newer blooms. And then here's one that's been open for a little bit of time. So this variety here, the Amazing Daisies Banana Cream 2, is a full sun perennial. This is a 1 gallon for $15.98. And let's see, it gets to be 20 to 24 inches in height. It needs 20-inch spacing. Hardy in zones 5 through 9 or down to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And it blooms early summer into late summer, likes full sun. I featured this plant here in my last Lowe's tour a couple of weeks ago, and this is the newest Stilby by Proven Winners that hit the garden centers this year, called Dark Side of the Moon. And it has this beautiful dark foliage. And what's unique about this variety is that this particular Stilby is rated for both sun and shade, and typically a Stilby prefers shade. Now I will say that if you do put this in sun, unless it gets plenty of water, there probably could be a tendency that it would crisp up. So I have mine, I actually bought one a couple of weeks ago when I did my last tour, and I placed mine in a part shade situation. And we shall see how it does over time, but I'm really excited to add this beautiful dark foliage Stilby to my garden. So the Proven Winners Dark Side of the Moon is it says full sun or full shade Stilby. I have mine in part sun. It is a perennial. This is a 1 gallon size for $15.98. This little piece needs to be deadheaded. I'm always tempted to do that, but I won't. I'll just push it to the side. And it looks great otherwise. The soil's nice and moist. And so here, the specs on it is it gets medium height at 20 to 22 inches in height. It needs 24-inch spacing. It's hardy in zones 4 through 9 or down to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And it blooms midsummer through late summer. And again, the lighting says full sun to full shade. Dark Side of the Moon Stilby. Earlier this season, when we were looking at those bare root bulbs, there were a lot of people who watch my channel looking for caladiums. Well, these aren't caladium bulbs, but they are caladiums in some pots. These are a beautiful shade annual. I'm sure that you can lift the corms and overwinter them if you wanted to, but they have some beautiful varieties in these annual containers here at Lowe's. There's this pale one with some white. There's also this speckled variety here. And all of these containers are $16.98. There's even a pretty red one. And some unique varieties of Rudbeckia. These larger blooms. This one even looks like it has a double layer of petals. Now usually the Rudbeckia is just a brown in the center with a golden petal, which gives them the name the brown-eyed or black-eyed Susans. Now these newer varieties have a bit more of a unique color palette where they have some color splashes on the petals as well. This variety here is called Amarillo Gold Rudbeckia. And the tag doesn't show the brown striping, so this could be off, so proceed with caution. You could always take a photo of the bloom, and in your Photos app you can select lens and then let Google AI help you kind of identify the type of plant you're looking at. But this one here is a full sun perennial. It is $9.98. It says that it is hardy to zone 5 or down to negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It gets to be 12 to 18 inches in height and 12 to 15 inches in width. Another really gorgeous coneflower. This one here is by Proven Winners, and it's called Colorcoded One in a Melon. Look at the size of this bloom. It almost takes up my whole hand. And I know it's coming up more yellow on camera, but in person it really does have a bit of a cantaloupe melon color. And they start off brighter and then they age to this lighter color. Really beautiful. And these look like they could be pretty tall as well. Let's check out the specs. The Proven Winners Color-Coded One in a Melon Coneflower is a full sun coneflower. It says it can take part sun. I have all of mine in full sun, and my coneflowers do great in full sun. I love these. These are my top #1 perennial in my garden. I actually made a video last year, my top 5 perennials, and this one took the #1 spot. So this is a 2.5 quart container of echinacea, and this variety here says it gets 24 to 26 inches in height and needs 18-inch spacing, hardy in zones 4 through 8 or down to -30 degrees Fahrenheit, and it blooms midsummer through early fall. Now, these here are on their way out, but I had them blooming for the first time in my garden this year, and this is an absolutely stunning perennial. It is the dark side of the, not dark side of the moon, but it is a dark side or dark foliage plant. This one here is, here's another beautiful perennial that I had in my garden bloom for the first time this year. It's a dark foliage Penstemon, and it is called Midnight Masquerade. This is a Proven Winners perennial, and the pollinators absolutely love it. It has these beautiful little bell-shaped flowers in this light lavender pink color, and such a beautiful contrast with these dark red stems and dark foliage. They're absolutely stunning. And if you're into making floral arrangements, even after they're done blooming, people use these seed pods. They'll cut them and they'll use them in floral arrangements as an accent. Here's the information on the Midnight Masquerade Penstemon by Proven Winners. This one here is a 1 gallon container for $15.98. It is full sun perennial, and it is very tall at 36 to 40 inches in height, so it's like a middle to back of the border type perennial. It needs 28-inch spacing. It is hardy in zones 3 through 9, it looks like. Let's see. 3 through 8. And hardy down to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, so pretty hardy. Blooms early summer through midsummer. Some beautiful dark foliage white Gila. Now this is a beautiful color accent or foliage accent for your mixed shrub borders. Look at this beautiful dark foliage. Such a nice contrast against something like green. Look at this. And even plants that are variegated like the white Gila beside it. I thought that was an ivory twig dogwood from far away, ivory halo dogwood, but it's a white Gila. We're going to check that out. So this dark foliage white Gila here is in the Lowe's house brand container. It is called Minor Black White Gila, and it looks like it has pink bell-shaped blooms similar to the Wine and Roses, which I actually have in my garden. Let's see, this one here, it's $18.98. It blooms in spring. And it looks like it gets to be 6 to 10 feet in height and 6 to 10 feet in width. So it certainly gets large. So you want to give this one some space. And it's hardy down to zone 4 or -20 degrees Fahrenheit. And here's the beautiful variegated white Gila. It actually looks more like euonymus now that I'm looking at it, because the ivory halo dogwood is more white and green, where this one is kind of yellow and green. Now this one does not have a tag on it, but it just reads variegated white Gila, and they are $18.98 for 1.71 gallon. And this white Gila here that has this gorgeous pink color, they're so nice and upright, these stems, and the pollinators are all over them. There's a few bees floating around here. So this has green foliage, this Spirea, with these really pretty pink blooms. Let's check out the variety. This here is the Anthony Waterer Spirea, and it is a full sun shrub. It's flowering. It flowers in the summer. This container here is just shy of a gallon, it looks like, for $10.98, which is a really good price. And let's see here. It gets to be 4 feet in height by 6 feet in width, and it's hardy down to -20 degrees Fahrenheit or zone 4. And it says that it is deer resistant. I do have Spirea growing in my garden. I have the Proven Winners Candy Corn Spirea, which is a more dwarf variety with yellow chartreuse colored foliage. Actually has multiple color on the foliage. It's beautiful, but the deer don't bother it. Really great foundation shrub. Well, this Stilby is all bloomed out at the moment, but look at this gorgeous coloring. It's almost like a blush color. Really beautiful. Now the foliage on a Stilby is kind of ferny, looks similar to this here. The Stilby love water, so if they don't get enough water, they do get a little crispy. But these are fine. You would just have to clean this up and continue to water them, and they are perennial. They prefer the shade. So shade and good amount of water, and they will be very happy. And look how beautiful they are. They also like fertilizing. So in early spring, I always fertilize mine with some plant tone. I was a little later this year, so I feel like my blooms are a little smaller. But if you fertilize them, give them a shady spot with lots of water, these guys will look beautiful for you, just like this. And here are the specs on the Monrovia Unique Silvery Pink Stilby. So this is a shade perennial. It is $10.98. It says it is deer resistant and extreme cold hardiness. Beautiful airy plumes, superb for cut or dried flowers. Compact hybrid, makes an excellent ground cover. It needs 1 to 3 hours of morning sun. It likes moist soil. It gets to be 12 to 16 inches in height and 12 to 16 inches in width, and blooms spring and summer. Hardiness, -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Another gorgeous shade plant is this heuchera here. This is the caramel heuchera by Monrovia. It has the most beautiful color change on this. It has this yellowy color, and then it has this caramel color, and even a little bit peachy color. Just absolutely stunning. Look at the different colors on these. The Monrovia Caramel Coral Bell is a full sun or shade. I have mine planted in part sun perennial. These are $13.98, and it says it's deer resistant, easy care. It needs 1 to 3 hours of morning sun. Keep the soil semi-moist. Maturity is 10 to 14 inch in height and 14 to 16 inches in width, and it blooms spring and summer. Now the blooms on these are these little plumes that come up and shoot up from the plant that look like tiny sprigs of baby's breath, and they're hardy to -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Another one of these icy blue lavender colored Veronica, and these are by Proven Winners. Really pretty color. This here is the Magic Show Ever After Veronica. It is a perennial. This is the 1 gallon for $15.98. It says it's full sun. And it gets to be 14 to 16 inches in height, needs 12-inch spacing, and it is hardy in zones 4 through 8 or to -30 degrees Fahrenheit, and blooms early summer through midsummer. And some Rose of Sharon shrubs have shown up. Now with Rose of Sharon, you want to be careful because some of the older varieties can really self-seed themselves around and become a bit invasive in the garden. I know my parents' neighbors have some, and they pop up little seedling babies everywhere. But some of these newer varieties are probably more sterile, but just something to keep in mind with Rose of Sharon. Now this variety here is by Proven Winners. It is the ruffled satin. And it says here that it is a sun shrub, hardy in zones 5 through 9 or to -20 degrees Fahrenheit. It gets to be 8 to 12 feet tall and 6 to 10 feet wide. Heat tolerant and long blooming. Looks really beautiful. And this container looks pretty large. The Rose of Sharon is $39.98 for a 3 gallon container. Another really unique Rose of Sharon is this variety here by Proven Winners called Sugar Tip Rose of Sharon. I actually bought this one for my garden. The variegation on it makes it really unique. It has this bit of a green leaf with this lighter creamy yellow tip and this light pink ruffly bloom. So this variety here needs sun, and it is hardy in zones 5 through 9 or down to -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Gets to be 5 to 6 feet tall and 4 to 6 feet wide. Oh, it's seedless, so that's really good, meaning that it won't drop seeds everywhere and create babies. And it's long blooming and durable. Look at that. Sugar Tip Rose of Sharon. Now let's see how much these are. 3 gallon container for $39.98. See these containers here of the house brand Rose of Sharon? These are the ones that would be more likely to self-seed themselves around. It just reads Rose of Sharon, and these containers here are $26.98, and they look to be about a 2 gallon container. My Lowe's here in my Zone 6B actually has a couple of these trees, these standard form Rose of Sharon trees. This here is the White Chiffon Rose of Sharon. And the White Chiffon is hardy in zones 5 through 9 or down to -20 degrees Fahrenheit. It likes sun, and it gets to be 8 to 12 feet tall and 4 to 6 feet wide. And it says that it is long blooming, double flowers, and durable. Let's see how much these are. So the hibiscus white chiffon tree is a 5-gallon for $64.98. And these beauties here are the Invincible Hydrangeas. These are the smooth or arborescens type hydrangeas. These are the proven winners. And this variety, Incredible, is, let's see how big they get. They're hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8 or down to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, so very hardy. And they like sun and part shade. They get to be 4 to 5 feet tall and wide. These are supposed to be an improved variety of the traditional Annabelles. Now, because these blooms are so large, when you get some rain, the older Annabelles are more likely to flop, where these have been bred to have a bit more stability on the stems to prevent that from happening as much. But if it does rain and your Annabelles are kind of floppy, you can just go outside, take the stem and kind of shake it out a little bit, and it'll get some of that excess water weight off of them. The Hydrangea Incredible is a 2-gallon container for $28.98. Okay, we're going to go ahead and check out the clearance, and here are the price ranges for the clearance. Now, most of the shrubs are going to be over this $15 price point, making them 50% off. So let's go ahead and see what they have in stock. And in the clearance section, they have some Chardonnay Pearls Deutzia. Now, this is a really pretty Deutzia. It's called Chardonnay Pearls because it has these really dainty white blooms in the spring, and this makes an excellent shrub for a container. It says it is an award winner. And let's see here. It is sun or part shade, hardy in USDA zones 5 through 8, hardy to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's really petite at just 1.5 to 3 feet tall and wide. And here's what it looks like. And this was originally $27.98 for the 2 gallons, so it is now half price at just around $14. Now, this Deutzia, if you look in it, it still has plenty of new growth. So whenever you're buying a clearance plant, you want to evaluate it for, you know, how much on the brink of death is this plant. Now, in this case, this one looks like it's pretty good because it's pushing out all this new green foliage. And if you stick your finger in the soil, you know that they're still taking care of them because they're moist. So it could just be that these just look a little bit past their prime for the sales floor. They're not blooming anymore. And sometimes when plants aren't blooming, it's hard to visualize what they'll look like in your garden. And so they get a place on the clearance rack. So these look in pretty good shape. Now, on the side, there are also some Spireas. Now, these look a little worse for the wear. If you start examining the plant and you can see that there is still some new growth coming from the base of the plant, or that there is new foliage on these woody stems here like that, then you know that there's still life left in this plant. So it might be worth taking the risk on. Now, it all depends how risk tolerant you are, but it's usually a good deal to pick these up if they are perennials and shrubs. Candy Play Candy Corn Spirea is a proven winner's color choice shrub, and it is a petite version of the Spirea. And there's such beautiful color variation on this shrub. It starts emerging with almost like a red foliage, and then it turns orange before turning this beautiful chartreuse color. And as it puts on new growth, it has a red coloring, similar to what you see here. It's just really a beautiful variety. And if you only have a small space, the size of it allows it to fit in many different garden layouts, whether large or small. So this one likes sun or part shade, has colorful foliage, it's a petite shrub, hardy in USDA zones 4 through 7 or down to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and it gets to be 1.5 to 2 feet tall and wide. The Candy Corn Spirea is $27.98 at 50% off for 2 gallons, so it'd be around $14. They also have another Spirea on the clearance rack here, the Double Play Big Bang. And this one here has a green foliage with the pink blooms. It is a sun or part shade shrub, hardy in zones 3 through 8 or to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It gets to be 2 to 3 feet tall and wide, colorful foliage, and supersized blooms. And this one here is also 2 gallons for $27.98, so it'd be 50% off. And when inspecting this one here, while I don't see any new growth shooting from the bottom, I do see some new growth on some of the tips of these woody stems, such as right here and right there. There are even some perennials that have made their way onto the clearance rack. These are the Amazing Daisy's Banana Cream. Now, we just saw some regular price out in the front there, and these here in the clearance rack in the back of the store maybe just had a bit more dry foliage upon arrival, and they decided to put these on the clearance rack. But because these are $15.98, they would fall under that $15 or over 50% off, so that would be an amazing deal for these. And there's clearly a lot of life left in these. Look at all the buds. So if I were to buy this plant and take it home, what I would do is I would deadhead all of these spent blooms. Now, spent blooms are the ones that are past their prime and done blooming. So I would take this bloom off, and to deadhead, all you do is follow the stem all the way down, cut it right here, do that to the whole plant to clean it up, so you're only leaving the foliage with the buds, and make it, just rejuvenating it basically. And what I would do is give it a nice deep drink of water, keep it in the shade for a couple of days, and then plant it out in the landscape, and it should do beautifully for you. And a few more beautiful shrubs that have hit the clearance rack, starting with this Ninebark. And it says that it's a petite plum Ninebark. It likes full or partial sun. It's a Monrovia exclusive. Now it's $44.98, so it would be 50% off of that, so about $22.50. And let's see how big it gets. It looks to be about 6 feet tall and 5 feet wide. Partial to full sun, water when top 2 inches of soil is dry, and it blooms late spring, followed by seed pods. And it's hardy in zones 4 through 8 or negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. The foliage on this is gorgeous. Look at that dark, beautiful foliage. And they have 2 of these in stock at my store, and they look like they're in perfectly great shape. The soil is pretty moist, so they've been watered. Look at that. It just needs a little cleaning up of some of these stems, but not even that bad. They look fairly good. And then this one here, I actually bought mine on clearance last year. This is a Iceberg Alley Sage Leaf Willow by First Edition Shrubs. And what I love about it is the color of the foliage. Look at the contrast of that against this dark Ninebark. Really beautiful. They look exactly like the herb sage. And they do get these little catkin type blooms in very early spring. I showed them in one of my garden tours. So I bought mine on clearance, planted it last fall, and it came back beautifully this spring. Actually, there you go. That's what the blooms look like. And that's what the shrub looks like once it establishes and fills in. So the Iceberg Alley Sage Leaf Willow, there's the name of it. It likes full sun, has silver foliage. Water needs are medium to high. In general, willows like water. So I have it planted in an area that gets, it stays pretty moist. And it is hardy down to zone 2, which is really hardy. And it says here that its size is 3 to 6 feet in height and 3 to 6 feet in width. And this one here is $27.98 or $28, so it'd be about $14. And keeping with the first edition trees and shrubs here, they also have a viburnum on clearance. Now these also look to be in really good shape. Look at these. So lucking out with the really good looking shrubs. I mean, there are a few that look worse for the wear, but there's also a good amount that look pretty good, especially to be 50% off. So this one here is the opening day double file viburnum, and it has these baseball or puffball size white blooms. Now these look very similar to hydrangeas. In fact, when they start blooming in spring, sometimes they're mistaken for hydrangeas, but they're actually viburnums. So this variety here likes full sun to part shade, has dark green foliage, and the foliage does change color to some shades of red in the fall. Usually most viburnums do change color in fall. And the size on these get to be 6 to 8 feet in height and 6 to 8 feet in width, and they're hardy in down to zone 5 through 8. I love the little sayings they put on these. Plant me, bro. They always put these fun sayings on the first edition shrubs. Let's be buds. But yep, so this one here is also 50% off. Some good buys to be had on the clearance rack at Lowe's. Did you see some lilacs in the spring and wish that you had one in your garden? Well, now is the time to pick them up. Because these are past their bloom and they're just green foliage now, they're less likely to get purchased. So they've made their way to the clearance rack. So these here would be $15, and I actually have this variety in my garden. It is beautiful. This is one of the later blooming lilacs I have. I have 3 varieties, and this one blooms the latest. It's the Miss Kim Lilac, and it blooms in spring. It is a full sun shrub, and it gets to be 6 to 7 feet in height and 6 to 7 feet in width, and hardy down to zone 3, so very hardy. And it's got beautiful, very light pale lavender blooms. They almost age to white. And these look pretty good. Some salvia on the clearance rack. Now salvia is such a hardy plant, and this looks like it's been cleaned up, and it looks pretty good. In fact, there's even a little bit of a bloom stalk, it looks like right there. So even though there's some dryness here, all you have to do is clean this up, water them, and they will come back for you in your garden next year. And there's actually 3 of them. So if you want to plant in groups, you can do that. So this is the Colorspires Violet Riot Salvia. And this is $12.98, so this one I believe would be $7. And let's see. It gets to be 22 to 24 inches in height, and it's 20-inch spacing, harding zones 3 through 8 or down to negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit, so very hardy. And it blooms late spring through early summer. If you deadhead these or shear them down after their first flush, they will send up more blooms. It's another clearance white Gila, and this one here is the Dark Horse White Gila by Monrovia. And this one here, it looks a lot like the Wine and Roses. It has that dark foliage with the pink bell-shaped blooms that you get blooms in spring. And it says, let's see how big this one gets. It likes full sun, water when top 2 inches of soil is dry, blooms in spring, hardy in zones 4 through 8 or down to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And it says that it's moderate growing, low spreading shrub, reaches 3 feet tall and wide, so average size. And there's a lot of fresh growth on this. It looks wonderful. There's a little bit of dryness underneath, and all you would have to do is take this home, clean this all up, give it some water. And at, let's see, $42.98, so that would be 50% off at right around $21.50. Their trees are also now on clearance. The select shade and flowering trees, 50% off. There are some apple trees and some flowering trees, as well as some shade trees still in stock. I also see a cherry tree over here in this corner. And check out this really pretty salmon colored hydrangea. It's got a really gorgeous shade of pink and really healthy foliage. They have it here in the shade area at Lowe's in the covered section of their greenhouse or garden center. This is the Endless Summer Crush. Now, the Endless Summer hydrangeas typically bloom on old and new wood, so even if you have a late season frost, typically with these mophead or macrophylla type hydrangeas, if you get a late season frost, because the buds are set on last year's wood, you could risk losing your blooms for this year. But because these have both old wood and new wood, you could still get blooms on this year's growth or the new wood. So the Summer Crush here says that it likes full sun or partial shade, and it gets to be, it's pretty petite, 18 to 36 inches tall and wide, hardy to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And the color on these will depend on the acidity of your soil. More acidic, they'll lean more purple. More alkaline, they will lean more pink. The Hydrangea Summer Crush is in a 1-gallon container for $21.98. They also have the Bloomstruck, and the Bloomstruck is now budded up and just starting to bloom. Also has really healthy looking foliage and lots of buds. And the Bloomstruck here, let's see how large this one gets. It's a morning sun or partial shade shrub. It gets to be 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, so a little larger. And it's hardy down to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, zones 4 through 9. And more acidic, it'll lean more purple, and more alkaline, it'll lean more purple pink. So more purple blue if it's more acidic, and more purple pink if your soil is more alkaline. And these here are a 1-gallon container for $19.98. My Lowe's here in my zone 6B still has lots of selection for annuals, and as you can see, some new perennials and shrubs, as well as a lot of new stuff on clearance. So as we head into the 4th of July weekend, they are going to be having a sale on a lot of their red, white, and blue hangers. So if you still want some flowers for the season, that would be a good time to check it out. And I thank you so much for spending your time with me. I hope that you've enjoyed checking out the inventory at the end of June at Lowe's, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button, and please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.